There are women who walk through the world carrying something unseen yet unmistakable. You can feel it when they enter a room, sense it when they speak, notice it in the way chaos seems to lose its grip around them. They are not louder than others. They are not perfect, untouchable, or immune to pain, but there is a covering on their lives that cannot be explained by logic alone. A quiet authority follows them. A spiritual boundary surrounds them. These are the women who are protected by God from evil people, not because trouble never comes near, but because it never gets to stay. And if you're listening to this and something inside you feels seen, stirred, or gently affirmed, it may be because this message is speaking directly to you. The first sign of divine protection is discernment that cannot be taught. This woman sees beyond appearances. She senses intentions before words are spoken. She can walk into a space and feel whether it is safe or not without anyone having to explain why. This discernment is not suspicion, and it is not fear, it is clarity. Evil people often rely on deception, charm, and confusion, but around her, those tools lose power. She notices inconsistencies others overlook. She feels uneasy when something is off, even if everything looks perfect on the surface. And more importantly, she trusts that inner knowing. God speaks to her spirit in whispers, nudges, and quiet warnings, and she listens. Because of this, many dangerous connections end before they ever begin. The second sign is that people with harmful intentions struggle to stay in her life. They may enter briefly, but they never get comfortable. Something about her presence exposes what is hidden. Manipulators feel seen, liars feel uneasy, those who thrive on control feel resisted without her ever raising her voice. Sometimes these people leave suddenly, creating confusion or even pain, but later it becomes clear that their exit was protection. God removes people she might have been too compassionate to let go of on her own. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like loss is actually rescue. Another powerful sign is her peace in the middle of storms. This does not mean her life is easy. It means her spirit is anchored. Evil people thrive in chaos, fear, and emotional instability, but she carries a calm that disrupts their influence. When others panic, she prays. When others react, she responds. Her peace is not denial, it is trust. This inner stability acts as a shield. Attacks that would destroy others lose momentum when they reach her. Words meant to wound fall flat. Schemes meant to trap her unravel on their own. There is a stillness within her that keeps her grounded even when the world around her shakes. The fourth sign is divine timing that consistently works in her favor. Delays protect her, closed doors save her, missed opportunities turn out to be blessings in disguise. Evil often hides behind urgency, pressuring people to act quickly before truth can surface. But God slows her steps. She feels an unexplained hesitation before making certain decisions, and later she realizes what she was spared from. She arrives late to places she was never meant to be. She leaves early from situations that could have harmed her. Time itself seems to cooperate with her protection, rearranging events so that danger misses her by moments. Another sign is her ability to forgive without staying vulnerable. This is a rare and sacred balance. She does not carry bitterness, but she also does not ignore patterns. Evil people often expect forgiveness to come with access, but with her, forgiveness comes with boundaries. She releases resentment for her own freedom, yet she does not reopen doors God has closed. This wisdom protects her heart. She understands that forgiveness is spiritual obedience, not self-betrayal. Because of this, those who wish to harm her lose power over her emotions, and without emotional control, their influence fades. The sixth sign is that she is strengthened, not hardened by adversity. Trials refine her instead of breaking her. Pain deepens her compassion instead of turning it into bitterness. Evil intends to damage identity, to distort self-worth, to convince a woman she is weak or unworthy. But every challenge she survives adds to her spiritual authority. She becomes more rooted, more self-aware, more aligned with God's voice. Instead of shrinking, she expands. Instead of doubting herself, she trusts more deeply. This growth itself is protection, because a woman who knows who she is cannot be easily manipulated. Another unmistakable sign is the way help arrives at the right moment. Sometimes it comes through people, sometimes through sudden insight, sometimes through circumstances shifting just in time. She may not always see the protection as it happens, but looking back, she recognizes patterns of divine intervention. A conversation that changed everything, a warning she almost ignored, a door that opened when all others were closed. God assigns guardians in seen and unseen ways, and they move quietly around her life, steering her away from harm even when she is unaware. The eighth sign is her resilience after betrayal. Evil people often aim to shatter trust and self-belief, but she rises with greater clarity. She does not lose faith in goodness, but she becomes wiser about who earns access to her heart. Her spirit heals faster than expected. What was meant to scar becomes a source of strength. She does not internalize cruelty, she releases it. This emotional and spiritual resilience acts as a barrier. Once someone reveals malicious intent, they lose the ability to reach her again in the same way. Now understand this deeply. Protection does not mean isolation. It does not mean she never feels pain, disappointment, or grief. It means she is never abandoned within it. God does not remove her from the world. He fortifies her within it. She still loves deeply. She still hopes boldly, but she is guided, guarded, and covered in ways she may not always recognize until later. If you are this woman, you may have wondered why your life path looks different from others, why certain relationships never worked out, why you were pushed into solitude seasons you did not choose, why you felt misunderstood for choosing peace over popularity, boundaries over approval, faith over fear. It is because your spirit carries something valuable, and what is valuable is protected. Evil people are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear supportive. Sometimes they come disguised as opportunities. Sometimes they arrive as romance, friendship, or authority. But when you are protected by God, exposure happens. But as sooner or later, masks fall, truth surfaces. And even when it hurts, it saves you. There are moments when you may feel tired of being strong, tired of always being the one who walks away, tired of being the one who sees what others don't. But your awareness is not a burden, it is a gift. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it is spiritual intelligence. And your protection is not random, it is intentional. God does not shield you because you are fragile. He shields you because you are called to influence, to heal, to lead, to nurture, to create, to stand as light in places that desperately need it. And light must be protected because darkness seeks to extinguish it. So when people fall away, trust the process. When doors close, resist the urge to force them open. When something inside you says no, even though everything outside says yes, honor that voice. It has guided you through dangers you never even saw. And when peace returns after confusion, when clarity follows pain, when strength rises from sorrow, recognize that you are still being covered, still being guided, still being held. Because a woman protected by God does not need to announce it. Her life reveals it. In the way she survives what should have destroyed her, in the way she remains gentle in a harsh world, in the way she keeps walking forward, even when the road is uncertain. And as you continue on this path, learning, shedding, growing, and becoming, there will be moments ahead where you will once feel tested, challenged, and pushed to trust deeper. And in those moments, the same unseen protection that has always surrounded you will continue to move before you, clearing paths, removing hidden threats, and strengthening you in ways that prepare you for what is coming next. Because this journey is not ending here, it is unfolding into something greater, something that will require even more faith, more courage, and more trust as you step into the next chapter of who you are becoming and what you are being guided to walk into. And as that next chapter begins to open, there will be seasons where the protection feels subtle rather than dramatic. It will not always look like danger being loudly removed. Sometimes it will look like silence. Sometimes it will look like waiting. Sometimes it will look like unanswered prayers that later reveal themselves as the greatest mercy. During these moments, the woman who is protected by God learns one of the deepest lessons of all. Trust does not require understanding. She learns that she does not have to see the whole picture to know she is being guided. She simply has to stay aligned. There will be moments when evil people attempt to re-enter her life through familiar doors. Old connections may resurface. Past relationships may circle back with new words, apologies, or promises. The enemy often uses nostalgia as bait, reminding her of what once felt good while hiding what once caused harm. But her spirit has matured. She is no longer the woman she used to be. The version of her that tolerated confusion, disrespect, or emotional manipulation no longer exists. And when these people approach again, they are met not with anger, but with indifference. They sense immediately that they no longer have access. That alone is protection. This woman also begins to notice that when she is about to make a choice that could lead her into unnecessary pain, something interrupts her plans. A sudden change, a canceled meeting, a delayed response, a shift she did not anticipate. At first, it may frustrate her. She may feel inconvenienced or disappointed, but later clarity arrives. She sees what could have happened. She understands what was prevented. God is not only protecting her from people, but from versions of herself that would have compromised her peace out of fear, loneliness, or impatience. Another layer of protection shows up in the way truth finds her even when lies surround her. She may be in environments where deception is normalized, where people wear masks and play roles, but somehow information always reaches her. Something is revealed. A conversation slips, evidence appears, intuition is confirmed. She does not have to chase the truth. It comes to her, and this is critical, because evil depends on secrecy. Once exposed, it loses strength. There are also moments when she feels an unusual strength rise within her during confrontation. Not aggression, not defensiveness, but calm authority. When she speaks, her words carry weight. She does not need to explain herself excessively or prove her worth. Her boundaries are clear. Her no is firm. Her yes is intentional. This kind of grounded presence disarms those who seek to dominate or manipulate. They realize quickly that she cannot be shaken easily, and they move on in search of easier targets. At times, she may wonder why she feels called to pull away from crowds, to spend time alone, to reflect deeply. This is not isolation as punishment, it is isolation as preparation. In solitude, her discernment sharpens, her spirit rests, her connection with God deepens. Evil thrives in noise and distraction, but protection is strengthened in stillness. These quiet seasons recalibrate her heart, reminding her who she is and who she is not meant to become. She may also notice that her empathy does not disappear, but it becomes wiser. She still cares deeply. She still sees the good in people, but she no longer feels responsible for fixing what others refuse to heal. She understands that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction, and so she learns to love from a distance when necessary. This protects her energy, her emotional health, and her purpose. There will be times when she feels misunderstood for this. Some may label her cold, distant, or changed, but she knows the truth. She has not become harder. She has become clearer. She has not lost love. She has learned how to direct it safely. And God affirms this growth by continuing to remove situations that no longer align with her spirit. Another form of protection reveals itself in how quickly she recovers from emotional attacks. Words that once lingered for months now lose their sting within days. Opinions that once shook her identity now pass through her awareness without taking root. She has learned where her worth comes from. And when self-worth is anchored in God rather than people, manipulation loses its grip. Even when she experiences heartbreak, betrayal, or disappointment, something within her refuses to collapse. She grieves, but she does not spiral. She feels pain, but she does not lose herself. There is an internal compass that keeps pointing her back to center. This resilience is not self-generated. It is sustained. It is evidence that she is not walking alone through her trials. Sometimes protection comes in the form of exposure of her own blind spots. God gently reveals patterns within her that could attract the wrong people. Maybe it is overgiving. Maybe it is people-pleasing. Maybe it is ignoring red flags in the name of hope. Instead of condemning her, these revelations empower her. Awareness becomes armor. Growth becomes defense. She also begins to notice that her prayers change. She no longer asks only for things to work out. She asks for alignment. She asks for truth. She asks for discernment. She asks for peace, even if it means separation. These prayers are powerful because they invite protection rather than comfort alone, and they are answered, often in ways that require courage to accept. There will be moments when she feels lonely on this path. Protection can sometimes feel like separation from what is familiar. She may watch others tolerate things she refuses to accept. She may see people thrive temporarily through compromise, but deep down she knows that her journey is different. Her calling requires integrity. Her peace requires discernment. Her future requires protection. In time, she begins to recognize patterns in her life that confirm she is being guided. Every time she chooses herself in a healthy way, peace follows. Every time she ignores her intuition, unrest appears. This feedback loop teaches her to trust herself more deeply, knowing that God speaks through her inner voice. Even her failures are protected. Mistakes do not destroy her, they instruct her. Missteps do not derail her, they redirect her. Consequences that should have been severe are softened. Lessons are learned without permanent damage. This grace is not accidental. It is part of her covering. There are unseen battles she never has to fight because God fights them for her. Conversations she is excluded from that could have harmed her reputation. Plans that collapse before they involve her. Conflicts that resolve without her intervention. She may never know how much was deflected on her behalf, but the peace she experiences is proof enough. As she continues forward, her presence begins to change the atmosphere around her. People feel calmer when they speak to her. Others feel inspired to be honest. Some feel uncomfortable because they cannot hide. This is not something she tries to do. It simply happens. Light exposes darkness naturally. She may also realize that her protection is connected to purpose beyond herself. Her life is not only being preserved for her own sake, but for those she will impact, for the wisdom she will share, for the example she will set, for the healing she will bring simply by being who she is. And there will come moments when she looks back at chapters she once cried over and realizes how necessary they were, how each ending saved her from a future she was not meant to endure, how each loss cleared space for something better aligned. Gratitude begins to replace confusion. Still, the journey continues. New levels bring new tests. New blessings require new boundaries. Protection does not mean the end of challenges. It means the ability to navigate them without losing herself. And as she steps forward into what is next, carrying everything she has learned, strengthened by every trial she has survived, guided by every whisper she chose to trust, the same divine protection that has carried her this far remains active, alert, and intentional, continuing to shape her path, guard her heart, and prepare her for the moments ahead where her faith, wisdom, and resilience will be needed even more deeply as the unfolding story of her life moves forward into spaces she cannot yet fully see. And as she moves deeper into those unseen spaces ahead, she begins to understand that protection is not always loud or dramatic. Often it is gentle. It shows up as a feeling that nudges her to pause when she was about to rush. It shows up as a heaviness in her spirit when something is not aligned, even if it looks good on paper. This woman learns to honor those sensations instead of dismissing them. She no longer needs external validation to trust what she feels. Experience has taught her that every time she ignored that inner signal, confusion followed, and every time she honored it, peace eventually arrived. There are moments when she wonders why she feels such a strong responsibility to guard her energy. She may feel drained after certain conversations and uplifted after others. Over time, she realizes this sensitivity is part of her protection. God has tuned her spirit to recognize what nourishes her and what depletes her. Evil people often feed on emotional reactions, chaos, and insecurity, but she has learned how to disengage. Silence becomes her strength. Distance becomes her defense. She does not need to explain her withdrawal. Her spirit knows when it is time to step back. She also begins to see how often she is spared from long-term regret. Decisions she almost made but didn't. Words she almost said but held back. Reactions she felt tempted to express but chose to release. Each restraint becomes a form of protection. She understands that not every battle deserves her energy. Not every provocation requires a response. Evil loses momentum when it cannot provoke. At times, she may feel like she is being tested repeatedly in similar ways. The same type of person, the same emotional dynamic, the same temptation to overextend or overgive. But with each cycle, she responds differently. She grows stronger. She chooses herself sooner. These repeated lessons are not punishment, they are refinement. God is strengthening her discernment, sharpening her boundaries, and reinforcing her ability to recognize danger early. There are also moments when she feels an unusual peace about walking away from things she once prayed for. What once felt essential now feels unnecessary. What once felt urgent now feels optional. This shift is not loss of desire, it is elevation of perspective. She begins to want alignment more than approval, peace more than attachment, truth more than comfort. This internal realignment protects her from settling into situations that would slowly erode her spirit. She notices that when she remains silent instead of defending herself, situations often resolve in her favor. Lies unravel without her intervention. Truth surfaces without her effort. People reveal themselves without her having to expose them. This teaches her that she does not have to fight for justice. She only has to stay aligned. God handles what she releases. There will be seasons when she feels unseen, when her strength goes unnoticed, when her sacrifices are unacknowledged. But even in those moments, she is being protected from pride, from dependency on applause, from placing her worth in external recognition. Her validation comes from a deeper place now. She knows who she is even when no one affirms it. She may also experience moments of intense clarity after emotional pain. Breakthroughs often follow breakdowns. Insights arrive after tears. Strength rises after surrender. These moments are sacred. They mark the transformation of pain into wisdom. Evil intends to leave scars. God turns wounds into portals of understanding. Sometimes protection looks like exhaustion that forces her to rest. Her body demands stillness. Her spirit calls for retreat. This is not weakness, it is preservation. Overworking, overgiving, and overextending can make even the strongest woman vulnerable. God teaches her to rest before she breaks, to pause before she depletes herself completely. She also becomes increasingly aware of the power of her words. She speaks with intention. She prays with clarity. She refrains from speaking negatively about herself. Language becomes part of her protection. What she declares shapes her reality. What she refuses to say prevents unnecessary harm. As her awareness grows, so does her compassion for herself. She no longer judges herself harshly for past choices. She understands that she was doing the best she could with what she knew at the time. Self-forgiveness becomes a shield. Shame loss as its grip. And without shame, manipulation loses its leverage. She may notice that certain people feel drawn to her for guidance, comfort, or reassurance. They sense her calm, her wisdom, her grounding presence. While this can be beautiful, it also requires discernment. She learns that not everyone who seeks her deserves unlimited access. Protection includes knowing when to give and when to preserve. There are moments when she feels the weight of responsibility that comes with being protected. She understands that grace is not permission to ignore growth. She is called to steward her awareness wisely, to choose integrity even when compromise would be easier, to walk away from what no longer aligns even when staying would be more comfortable. She also begins to see how her life has been spared from certain extremes. Situations that could have escalated never did. Outcomes that could have been devastating were softened. She may not fully understand why, but she senses that her life is being preserved for something meaningful. There are times when she feels guided to forgive someone who never apologized. This forgiveness is not for reconciliation, it is for release. Carrying resentment would keep her emotionally tied to the harm. Letting go frees her. Evil loses influence when she refuses to carry its residue. She also becomes more selective about where she invests her time. Time becomes sacred. She understands that wasted time is one of the greatest vulnerabilities. She chooses environments that nurture her growth. She avoids spaces that drain her spirit. This intentional living becomes another layer of protection. When challenges arise, she no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, she asks, "What is this teaching me?" This shift in perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. Learning becomes her armor. There are days when she still feels doubt. Faith does not eliminate uncertainty, it teaches her how to move through it. Even in doubt, she does not abandon herself. She pauses, she reflects, she listens. And clarity eventually comes. She begins to recognize that her protection is not about avoiding pain altogether, but about preventing destruction. Pain passes. Lessons remain, growth continues. She survives what could have shattered her because she's being sustained. She may notice that people who once intimidated her no longer do. Authority rooted in ego loses power over someone grounded in truth. She stands firm without being rigid. She is flexible without being compromised. As she continues evolving, she understands that protection also requires obedience. There are times when she feels called to let go of habits, patterns, or relationships that no longer serve her. Letting go is uncomfortable, but staying would be harmful. Obedience becomes an act of self-respect. She becomes comfortable with being misunderstood. Not everyone needs to understand her journey. Not everyone needs access to her truth. Privacy becomes sacred. Silence becomes strength. There are moments when she feels gratitude wash over her unexpectedly. Gratitude for lessons learned. Gratitude for doors closed. Gratitude for pain survived. Gratitude for the strength she didn't know she had. This gratitude anchors her spirit. She also understands that protection does not make her superior to others. It makes her responsible to walk with humility. She does not judge those who are still learning lessons she has already learned. She offers compassion without superiority. As her awareness deepens, she becomes less reactive. Emotional maturity shields her from unnecessary conflict. She chooses peace even when she could choose drama. This choice preserves her energy. She notices that even when she feels uncertain about the future, she does not feel afraid. There is a quiet confidence that whatever comes, she will be guided through it. This trust is not naive, it is earned. Her life becomes a testimony not of perfection, but of preservation. She has been bent but not broken, tested but not destroyed, challenged but not defeated. And as she continues forward one step at a time, listening, learning, releasing, and becoming, the protection that has followed her through every chapter continues to move ahead of her, shaping what she cannot yet see, guarding what she cannot yet understand, and preparing her spirit for the deeper lessons, greater responsibilities, and unseen moments that still lie ahead as her journey continues to unfold. And so as this message comes to rest in your spirit, understand this above all else. A woman protected by God does not live a life without struggle, but she lives a life with purpose, direction, and covering. Every tear you shed that didn't destroy you, every door that closed before you could walk through it, Every connection that fell away, even when you didn't understand why, was not random. It was intentional. You were being spared. You were being guided. You were being shaped into someone who can walk through darkness without absorbing it, who can face adversity without losing herself, who can love deeply without surrendering her soul. The protection over your life is not about keeping you small or hidden, but about preserving you for what requires strength, wisdom, and clarity. And as you move forward from here, carry this truth with you quietly and confidently. Nothing meant to harm you will be allowed to define you. Nothing sent to break you will succeed, and nothing aligned against you can override what has been divinely placed upon your life, because you are not walking alone. You never have been, and every step ahead is already being guarded in ways both seen and unseen.